So today I'll be talking about a very novel research area combining biochemistry and neuroscience, understanding the immunotherapy for drug addiction and how biochemistry can also affect behavior. So save your questions until the end, but my name is Brent Kisby. I'm a behavioral neuroscience major here at Northeastern, and I am representing the Biochemistry Club for today. What is drug addiction? So drug addiction can be either incorporating food, drugs, behavior, and behavior could be gambling, sex, and other stuff like that. So the National Institute for Drug Addiction makes drug addiction as a chronic and relapsing disease, which actually is a great definition because it is actually a disease that could either be incorporated in all the way at the structural level on the brain, and it can work down to the cellular and molecular level of the brain itself. The drugs that we're going to be talking about for today is a different group of psychostimulants called bath salts. They are very similar in nature to MDMA, methamphetamine, or cocaine, but they're even more potent because they affect many different brain regions and other neurotransmitters itself, and causes locomotor activity. It causes several other different effects that these known drugs don't cause. Here, this is a few pictures of what bath salts looks like. They come in like little packets, and they're sold legally over the counter at drug head shops, and escaped DEA regulation because they changed certain compounds to look different from another, so it was able to escape regulation because of that. And they were sold as either plant food or not for human consumption, and that's another way that it was able to bypass regulations. Some names for them are either other bath salt compound street names are Flocka, Meow Meow, Monkey Dust, and this is actually becoming a really big issue in Florida right now. Since about 2011, when data came out for bath salts, there were about 25,000 cases of bath salt related ER visits. As you can see here, this is a big, there's a lot of polydrug use with bath salts, with either synthetic cannabinoids itself, or THC, or other psychostimulants, or other drugs like ethanol. As I said earlier, some of the psychostimulant behaviors are either hyperlocomotion, tachycardia, hypertension, and renal dysfunction. The one I did leave out here is it does cause death after 1 dose, 2 doses, and it could be very lethal to the population. So how do we combat this? There has been a drive in the field of drug addiction itself with trying to either create a compound that will alleviate some of these symptoms, or you just don't have that drug get to the brain. So these vaccines are very useful in the way that they work. They have a very strong history, dating back to the 70s, with showing efficacy in decreasing these types of effects as described earlier. Recently, there was a study that came out of the Scripps Research Institute that showed meth vaccine actually does help with attenuating the effects of self-administration to methamphetamine with given this vaccine. How do these vaccines work? Everyone knows how vaccines, like flu vaccines, work, but these vaccines are a little different and they have a specific different biochemistry. So the gold blob, as you can see, is actually just a protein. It stimulates the immune system like vitamin C, just creating antibodies in the bloodstream. And the orange bit, as you can see, is just the drug itself, or something that looks like the drug that creates antibodies specific to the drug that is present. So in the unprotected region, you can see that drug gets into the body through the bloodstream and gets right to the brain, as what most drugs of abuse do. But these vaccines actually get into the body by vaccinating and inoculating individuals and creating multiple antibodies. Once the drug gets into the bloodstream, the drug binds to these antibodies and sequestering it outside of the brain and eliminating the behavioral effects thereof of these drugs. This data here is research done by the Scripps Research Institute and research that I worked on specifically, showing that with the this data is basically showing that with the vaccinated groups that are KLH, just the protein itself, there's an increased wheel activity and locomotor activity in these animals for both the two drugs of MDPV and alpha PVP. But in the vaccinated groups, there is no drug effects in pretty much every dose except the high dose, because there is a known overdrive effect. So this data does show that it does work. And as described earlier, the meth vaccine actually does show efficacy for decreasing self-administration of methamphetamine or other drug, and this model for drug vaccines is a great way for combating the effects of drug addiction. So I'd like to thank everybody at the TAF lab at Scripps for their technical assistance and scientific knowledge.